Hello. Are we live? Are we live at 5? Actually, we're live at 12:15. Just turned to 12:16. Saturday, March 22nd, 2025. How's my sound? Can you hear me? Check, check, check. Can you hear me? Do you guys remember that? The Who? I loved that movie. But it was actually really bad. I watched it a couple years ago and it was not well done. As a little kid, I thought it was quite impressive. The music is good. The ideas are good, in my opinion. But yeah, they did a pretty lousy job slapping that together. Too bad. It had a lot of potential. Maybe somebody will redo it. Actually, I bet that'll happen, huh? Anyway, I want to get down to business. I have a letter that I want to read to you. And first, I'm trying to find that thumb. Ask you to hit your like button if you don't mind. And then turn on your notification bell to ring so you know when I surprise you with a live on a Saturday. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. Subscribe to my channel. If you're not subscribed, please consider it. And if you are subscribed, please check to make sure that that hasn't been discontinued unwittingly, because that happens. And I don't know if that's a glitch or if that's supposed to happen or what that is, but whatever it is, it's annoying. So I know it happens with me and some of the channels that I sub to. And I've had some of my mods tell me that every time they come into a live, they see that they're unsubbed and they have to resub. So that's a weird glitch, isn't it? I don't know. There was a weird glitch in my live yesterday when I was talking about Doge and spelling it Doge. They kept cutting the E off. And I was like, wait, did I forget the E? When, I review my videos, and I'm glad that I do, because I catch these things, and they probably assume that most people don't review their videos. And sometimes there's like a glitch in your computer that cuts things off like that, but it cut the E off of Doge, I don't know, like 3 or 4 times. And then like one of the last times that they cut it off, they didn't do it right. So you kind of heard the E, but I thought, that's just so bizarre. Like, did I forget the E, or are they messing with me? Or is it just a glitch in the computer? I don't like to jump to conclusions. I don't know what it was. Let's just say I forgot the E. Okay, I don't care. I do make mistakes. That's why I review my videos. But it's really funny when I catch them doing stupid stuff, and then as soon as I call it out, they quit doing it. Christine Herman, hello. I caught you live today, and I caught you, my dear. How are you, honey? And how are you feeling today? I hope that you're doing well. I don't know if you want any unsolicited advice, but I just tell myself this every freaking day of my life that I remember. I have to remind myself constantly to eat my veggies. If I eat my veggies, everything is good. And if I don't eat my veggies, not so much. So I like to remind myself and other people about that simple, what I call like grandma's therapy. Grandma was right. Eat your veggies. They're priceless. And it doesn't matter what you put on them. If you put cheese or butter or chocolate sauce, it doesn't matter, just so that you get your vegetables into your system. And you know that, right? But is it helpful for me to remind you, or is it just annoying? You can be honest. And how's the sound? Is the sound okay? So I'm coming on today specifically to read you a letter that one of my mods shared with me. And I think I had seen it on a couple of channels yesterday, but this was a couple of days ago. And Elon Musk had attacked a Democratic lawyer, superstar court lawyer, Mark Elias, as undermining civilization, taunting him by asking him if he suffered generational trauma. And I'm like, there's nobody on this planet that hasn't suffered generational trauma. Some of us just might not be aware of it. But believe me, we're all there. And we get the hand-me-downs of generational problems that if we're not conscious of it, it can be very undermining. It's important to try to become aware of these things and be able to address them. So knowing your family history, knowing your lineage, and just knowing how it affects you, and knowing what your parents and your grandparents and your great grandparents have gone through. It's sort of more like a Native American philosophy that everything that we do, all the decisions that we make, affect 7 generations down. So I think it's true. Especially good decisions. Oh, good. I'm glad that the sound is good for you. And hello, my dears. Thanks for being here, you guys. So I'm just going to start reading what Elias wrote. Mr. Musk, you recently criticized me and another prominent lawyer fighting for the rule of law and democracy in the United States. I am used to being attacked for my work, particularly on the platform you own and dominate. I used to be a regular on Twitter, where I amassed over 900,000 followers, all organic except for the right-wing bots who seemed to grow in numbers. Like many others, I stopped regularly posting on the site because under your stewardship, it became a hellscape of hate and misinformation. I saw that happening on Facebook even, which is one of the many reasons why I got off of Facebook. But there were other reasons too. Other reasons, hashtag other reasons. I also used to buy your cars. First a Model X, which I think is E's favorite letter in the alphabet. Or favorite number, shall we say, if you're doing Roman numerals. And then a Model S, back when you spoke optimistically about solving the climate crisis. My family no longer owns any of your stinking cars and never will. I added the stinking. But this is not the reason I am writing. You don't know me. You have no idea whether I have suffered trauma, and if I have, how it has manifested. And it's none of your freaking business. Again, I added the freaking. However, I will address your last point about generational trauma. I am Jewish, though many on your site simply call me a Jew. Honestly, it's often worse than that, but I'm sure you get the point. There was a time when Twitter would remove anti-Semitic posts, but under your leadership, tolerating the world's oldest hatred now seems to be a permissible part of your free speech agenda. Like many Jewish families, mine came to America because of trauma. They were fleeing persecution in the Pale of Settlement. Settlement. That's not a glitch. Well, it's a glitch in my mouth. The only area in the Russian Empire where Jews were legally allowed to reside. Even there, life was difficult, often traumatic. My family, like others, lived in a shetty, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, and was poor. Worse, pogroms were common. Again, I'm not sure if I'm saying that word right either. Pogroms. Violent riot, this is the definition of pogroms. Violent riots in which Jews were beaten, killed, and expelled from their villages. By the time my family fled, life in the Pale had become all but impossible for Jews. Tsar Nicholas II's government spread anti-Jewish propaganda that encouraged Russians to attack and steal from Jews in their communities. My great-grandfather was fortunate to leave when he did. Those who stayed faced even worse circumstances when Hitler's army invaded. I don't even like saying that word, the H word. It's rough. It's gross. That is the generational trauma that I carry. The trauma of being treated as other by countrymen you once thought were your friends. The trauma of being scapegoated by authoritarian leaders. The trauma of fleeing while millions of others were systematically red-rummed. The trauma of watching powerful men treat it all as a joke, or worse. As an immigrant yourself, you can no doubt sympathize what it means to leave behind your country, extended family, friends, and neighbors to come to the United States. Of course, you probably had more than 86 rubles in your pocket. You probably didn't ride for 9 days in the bottom of a ship or have your surname changed by immigration officials. Here's the ship manifest showing that my family did. Aaron, age 3, was my grandfather. And there's an image there. that I won't bother reading. And as new immigrants, life wasn't easy. My family lived in cramped housing without hot water. They worked menial jobs, the kind immigrants still perform today. Some may look down on those immigrants, the ones without fancy degrees, but my family was proud to work and grateful that the United States took them in. They found support within their Jewish community and a political home in the Democratic Party. I became a lawyer to give back to the country that gave my family a chance. I specialize in representing Democratic campaigns because I believe in the party. I litigate voting rights cases because the right to vote is the bedrock of our democracy. I speak out about free and fair elections because they are under threat. Now, let me address the real crux of your post. You are very rich and very powerful. I'm sure he just loves hearing that. He can't hear that enough, can he? From enough people. You have thrown in with the little d. Whether it is because you think you can control him or because you share his authoritarian vision, I do not know. I do not care. Together, you and he are dismantling our government, undermining the rule of law, and harming the most vulnerable in our society. I am just a lawyer. I do not have your wealth or your platform. I do not control the vast power of the federal government, nor do I have millions of adherents at my disposal to harass and intimidate my opponents. I may even carry generational trauma. But you need to know this about me. I am the great grandson of a man who led his family out of the Shetty, Shettel, Shettle, to a strange land in search of a better life. I'm the grandson of the 3-year-old boy on that journey. As you know, my English name is Mark, but my Hebrew name is Elhanan, after the great warrior in David's army who slew a powerful giant. I will use every tool at my disposal to protect this country from the little t. I will litigate to defend voting rights until there are no cases left to bring. I will speak out against authoritarianism until my last breath. I will not back down. I will not bow or scrape. I will never obey. Signed, Defiantly. What's the obsession? Hey, lady. Hey, friend. What's going on? I hope you're having a good Saturday. Where is Kanye? You need the H word said. You're so cute, Kelly. That's hilarious. I know. These people, like that guy down there in the Carolinas that was, what was he? The other black man that said he was a Nazi, and he said it in the chat of, or comment section of like porn. Whack a doodle. And then little T was like trying to like raise him up until he realized that he was scorning himself. I'm so happy that you caught me too. That was a great letter. Thank you, my dear. And yeah, I have been really into talking about political stuff. You know, I'm still talking about the true crime because I feel like the political stuff is true crime. And yeah. So Mark Elias is the one who wrote this open letter. And I'm not sure if he just like posted it on Facebook, I think maybe, but I just thought I'd share it. And really, I was actually, honestly, you know, I always have to be straightforward with you guys. I was coming on to test my lighting because I was getting too like pink and red. So I've added some amber over here, some blue over there, more green up there. And I think that's the only changes that I've made, but it helps, doesn't it? Like it's not, I'm not as like pink or orange as I was yesterday in the last few days. I can tell from your text, keep them coming. You keep me current. Well, you and my mom. Oh, that's so cute. Yeah. And I've been pretty much trying to avoid all the crap with the Idaho 4. I'm just like, dear Lord, I don't trust that law enforcement in Moscow any further than I could kick them. And I probably would want to kick them if I had half of a chance, not to hurt them, just to let them know how unhappy I am with them and their lack of ethics and morality and all that good stuff. And I know you and I see the case different, so it's kind of a dangerous one to bring up. But man, that freaking photograph of the criminal defendant, the one that they said was the selfie that he took 2 hours after the crime, I don't believe anything about that photograph. First of all, the timing of releasing it is whack. The coloring is whack. The black AirPods in his ears, I think, are to make him look more vampire-esque. He just needs that, like, collar shooting up like this. And then, like, the background with the tiles, that's like allegedly what he just got out of the shower washing off all the red stuff. I don't think he's even in a bathroom. I think that whole thing is like photoshopped and artificial intelligence. His nose is like 3 times the size as it normally is. And then there's this giant shiny spot on it just to make sure that it's emphasized. And then he's got these crazy laugh lines here that he doesn't really have. And his face is a lot skinnier. Like, he just looks so gaunt and like he would do the crime, and like he would eat your soul if he could. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess it's good propaganda, but I don't buy any of their crap. And then all those new texts and everything that's like, oh, well, we didn't tell you the truth at first, but then we told you the truth in the PCA. But no, we didn't really tell you the truth in the PCA, but we're telling you the truth now. Like, no, you got to pick a story and stick with it. I mean, sure, law enforcement can do that. They're given some leeway, but they also need to protect their reputation and their credibility, because once your reputation and credibility are shot, you're toast. That's all you have. It doesn't matter if you're law enforcement or just a regular citizen. Your reputation is important. So if you make yourself untrustworthy, then it's over, baby. It's over. Why don't you believe it? I just think the whole thing is crap. Yeah, and you're getting tired of Idaho 4 right now, too. The lighting looks awesome. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, you were explaining it. LOL. Welcome, Mrs. Amir. I think he was on meth then. He looks healthier in jail for that reason, I think. I don't know. Like, I think he was like running. Remember, he would run with his friend in the evening. I don't know, but I think some of our Doge government officials are on meth and X, Y, and Z, and ketamine, special K, maybe some H. Yeah, I mean, what really gets me about that whole case is that stupid letter from his personnel file, that phony fake letter from the personnel file at Wazoo, and then when they try to say, well, this fake letter explains why he did all these things. And it's like, okay, if you're looking at it through that lens, look at Matthew Kurt, who was forced to resign on November 4th of 2022 for all of his sexploitations, as I call them. And look at that command staff over there at Wazoo. And he had to resign from a 6-figure salary. Those sergeants over there made 6 figures. And then the chief, the assistant chief, and the captain, they all had to resign in the summer when Gary Jenkins swooped in to like clean up the mess that they made. Gary Jenkins had the exact same mess over at the Pullman Police Department from Dan Hartgraves, who was tried, and it was a hung jury, and the 18-year-old victim that he violated couldn't go through it again. But Dan Hartgraves had Matthew Kurt violating her with him while she was in custody under the supervision of Gary Jenkins, who's coming over to clean up Wazoo a few months after he interviews Koberger, who will never know who freaking filled that damn internship position. Like, don't get me started. Yeah, so let's go back to talking about Elon and little T. I call them Big E and little T. Yeah. I know. I'm just kind of waiting for it to die down because all that crap just came out a couple of days ago and everybody's like running with it. And I just feel like I could have too, especially that photograph. That photograph is so effing creepy. It's insane. But don't fall for it. It's not what it seems. Look at the background, look at the tile, look at the coloring. They made his face match the tile. The tile is like too far away. They didn't even do a good job with their photoshopping. And it's kind of like blurred out and he's all but no, I mean they just need some vampire fangs and some red stuff, like the photograph of Maddie when she's with Bethany, right? Wasn't that a Halloween party just 2 weeks before this situation? So yeah, I've been, I like to try to keep a thumb on the pulse of it. So I've been really limiting the information that I take in with Idaho 4 right now. I pretty much have only been watching Jules of All Trades because she presents the information and she puts her opinion in there, but her opinion is consistent with my opinion. So, I just can't. I mean, those two girl, I don't know. I love you and I don't want to argue with you. So yeah, we can talk about other stuff. But Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen are, to me, as guilty as Nicole Kessinger in the Watts case. They're also as guilty as Amanda Knox in the Meredith Kircher case. So, time is the test that tells. And it's been like 2.5 years. And what information has come out to support that Dylan was in a frozen shock phase and Bethany slept through the whole thing? All of the information that's come out the last 2.5 years is 100% contraindicated to that. So I think that those cute little blonde girls were jealous of the other cute little blonde girls in the house. Also, maybe similar with Scummy Scammy in the Kylie Rodney case. That's where I categorize those girls. But yeah, they are cute. So let's just give them a free pass. Keep the get out of jail free card. I think the photo is real. He is evil, in my opinion. Well, I agree that he looks 1,000,000,000% evil in that photograph. But I think they've been so limited in the photographs that they release of him. And the photographs that they release are so contrived and really stupid, to put it bluntly. Like the ones with the fake photo of him with Margaret Atwood's book. And he's all smiling with Margaret Atwood floating on the aisle behind him. And I know she came to DeSales University and spoke at a book signing event. And yeah, he might have been there, but that's not his head on that body. And let's just say it was. Let's just say it is him and he was there and it's a real photograph. Still, the selection to release that photo of that event and virtually no other photos of no other events. Like, have we seen any like cute little kid pictures of him when he was a toddler? 2.5 years. What kind of dirt have they dug up on him other than that he had a problem with rugs in his late teens and he stole his sister's phone and that he was no good at filleting fish? Nah. Anyway, I know that you and I see it drastically different. And that's okay. I've been around a police chief exactly like freaking Small Fry, who did the exact same thing after he hacked some horrible, horrible cases, and he ran for the hills with his tail between his legs with basically no excuse. I mean, Fry had the excuse of retiring at 29 years. His excuse was because he wanted to run for sheriff. And had he won sheriff, then that would be a really good cover. But he did not win sheriff. And I don't know if he's currently unemployed. I don't know if he's currently robbing banks. I mean, I would think he doesn't have to because his wife is the clerk of courts. So she's able to protect him, and all of the public records requests that come through have to go over her desk. And I don't know if she's still in control of all of the finances of Moscow, but I would think maybe. I don't know. When she won that election, and again, she won that election 4 days after Matthew Kurt was forced to resign, And then 7 days later, or 6 days later, 5 days later, then this happened with the Idaho 4. And then 30 days after that, the whole thing with Brent Kopaka happened. And there's so much more to that story. That is so messed up. If that were real, there would be veterans groups screaming and hollering from the mountaintops immediately that they did not follow protected person protocol with that SWAT team incident. They simply didn't. And they were just standing around drinking their lattes, laughing, chatting. If you've seen the footage of them. Anyway. So yeah. What else is going on? Gigi the Ginger, OMG. And so she's back on YouTube, MC3PO, and she's got another name now. I forget, because I looked it up recently. And because Paula Plunder, who I adore Paula Plunder, she released some information. It was the situation like the year prior in Pullman where some young women had their apartment broken into, and then there was a man with a sharp object maybe, but they know that it wasn't Koberger. They know it wasn't him. That there's lots of evidence that it wasn't him. First of all, he didn't live there. Sure, he could have been visiting, but the height was wrong. And I think that they even like arrested the guy. It was like a guy that was Hispanic or Latin American. He was a lot shorter than Koberger. But anyway, Gigi, with her new name, she pumped that out into the YouTube land like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. And then she put some fire under Plunder's feet to fall for it, in my opinion. And it was weird. I mean, most of the channels that I watch looked at that information and said, well, yeah, that's actually like evidence that it wasn't him. But there were a couple, and I think News Nation was one. And I don't know if Plunder like changed her stance on it or if she remained, but it was her thanking Gigi at one point, like maybe at the end of her video or maybe in the description, that I was like, wait a second, Gigi? Don't be trusting that little redhead. She's a plant. She's a ficus. Trump and his first lady Musk need to be put on a flight to El Salvador. OMG, they're crazy. These two douchebags don't know the first thing about our system, our country, our laws, and they are just doing the smash and grab. They're criminals. And they know that they're criminals, and they know that if they don't win the fight that they're going to jail. So they're going to give it everything they got. What have they got to lose? Especially little T, because he's like 78 years old. He's got nothing to lose. Nothing. That's the point of the way they released it, to be sure you get the skivvies and heebie-jeebies. Right, all of the photographs that they've ever released of him are pretty bad. And, I'm not like a pro-burger, and I'm not like romanticizing him whatsoever, but he's not a bad-looking guy. But they release photos where he looks about as fugly as a person can be. And then especially when you think of the person in the framework of somebody that dark and scary. And I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be completely missing the boat. But I firmly believe that Dylan and Bethany are deeply involved, like over their eyeballs involved. They had 9 hours to clean up. They continue to lie about the time frame. The time frame of when it happened was between 3 and 4 a.m. Except then in the PCA, they decided that everything started at about exactly 4 o'clock. Nothing happened until 4:00. And then it all happened in 16 minutes, which I also think is crap. Sure, a ninja could do that in 16 minutes, but I don't think that Nerd Coburger is a ninja. Sorry, not sorry. And I think that it took a lot more people to control 4 folks. One of them being, isn't Ethan 6'4"? He's at least 6'3". He was a very strapping young man, extremely tall, taller than his triplet brother, who might have been like 6'2". But he towers over his triplet brother. And then there's the triplet sister, who's a lot shorter. But anyway, I haven't really followed the Idaho for Too Complicated for Me and full BS testimony. Well, there's people who thought it was a PSYOP from the beginning. I think there's people in the Kylie Rodney camp that thought it was designed to distract folks from the Kylie Rodney case. I don't know if it's either of those things. I'm just going to assume that it's neither of those things for the sake of argument here. And I think that there's a lot of scandal going on at that house with big money and with the Greek system and with that freaking Scott Coomer Green billionaire presidente, and with that freaking police department that knew those girls well, and tried to pretend like they didn't, like it was the first time they'd ever heard of that address or those people or something. There's nothing wrong with just saying, yeah, we're familiar with these people, and it makes it even harder to have to deal with such a horrifying tragedy. And then the demolishing the house, that was such crap. And now they've like built a little dollhouse in like 3D, not even like virtual, but in like 3D, like practically out of Legos. It's just like, there was stuff in that house that they wanted hidden. Otherwise, if the case were real, they would have kept that house up until after the trial, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion. And let me just state right here that everything I say is simply my opinion, for the sake of hoping to start a conversation with you guys, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. YouTube is an infotainment platform, and I'm also here to test my lighting. So it's a Saturday. I don't usually do videos on Saturdays, but I miss any day that I don't do a true crime video. I miss it like crazy, you guys. It's hilarious. Don't you feel that way, Kelly, from What's the Obsession? Like, don't you just love making your videos? Like, yeah, it's a lot and it can be exhausting, and sometimes you're too tired, so you just can't do it. Because I've tried doing it when tired, and sometimes I can fly on a second wind, and other times I'm just brain dead, and all I say is, yeah, you don't want to do it when you're tired or hungry or distracted, or you have like a severe time crunch, time limitation. And, it's an uphill battle, isn't it? Trying to like line all your ducks in a row and have all those things taken care of. And then, the dogs start barking or something. Oh, and the dogs, you guys. My son and his girlfriend adopted a freaking butterscotch colored, not a corgi, Cocker Spaniel, like 3-month-old Cocker Spaniel yesterday. She's so ridiculously cute. She doesn't even look real. She looks like one of those little tiny stuffed animals with the head too big and the eyes too big. OMG. I will post a picture of her on the community tab, but you cannot even begin to wrap your mind around how cute she is from a picture. The videos kind of show it. Like, her movements are so hilarious. Maybe I'll try to see if I can post a short video of her. Oh my goodness, she's so precious. So, yeah, that hijacked my brain, didn't it? Puppy love. It was just like love at first sight. She peed on my bed. She pooped in my dining room. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. She's so cute. Just clean it up. No big deal. I mean, she's a puppy. So I told my son and his girlfriend, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have let you guys bring her in if I was worried about that because she's a puppy. You just adopted her today. That goes with the territory. Oh my goodness. So freakishly cute. Cocker spaniels are adorable, and she's kind of like a butterscotch cinnamon color. And she's like 8 pounds. And her and Mookie are like the exact same size. I have a video of them like pouncing around each other. You know, Mookie, the one who's half Chiweenie, who thinks she's all wiener dog. And both of my old lady dogs, Mookie and Coco, I think really liked her. Mookie was really jealous when I was given the little baby attention, but they both were like, I think had maternal instincts towards her. So freaking cute. So I'm excited. It's like having a new member of the family. Can you tell? And kind of prepping me for my first grandbaby next month. OMG. Yeah, I'm like less than a month away from the due date now. It's 4/20 is the due date. Easter. Easter. So, did we ever meet B. Kopach's roommates, or were they invisible? We didn't meet them. They might be invisible. We do not know. But I'm not trusting the invisibility of the veterans advocates because he was a vet. He had a Purple Heart. He had a traumatic brain injury, and they would have been up in arms. If that had the same outcome as a result, but they had done the protected person protocol, then I wouldn't expect there to be outrage. But with there being no protected person protocol and there being full outrage, I mean, sorry, that was a Freudian slip, lack thereof on behalf of veterans groups. I mean, I'm outraged. And then I'm just like thinking about all of the local law enforcement that were part of that SWAT team. And you had people like, I'm pretty sure that Brett Payne was part of that SWAT team. There were, of course, a handful of officers from Moscow PD and a handful of officers from Wazoo PD. And then I would imagine that there were sheriffs and probably the ISP, the Idaho State Patrol troopers. You know, that's the way SWAT teams are. It's like people that work in law enforcement or military do this thing where they have the training to be part of the SWAT team. And then when something happens, they all show up, you know, show of force in numbers. And the man who had the kill shot with Brent Kopaka, I don't remember his name, but I do remember that he was the lowest paid sergeant in the Washington State University Police Department. He was so low paid, he made like $30,000 as opposed to like $130,000. I don't think they made quite that much. They were in like the low six figures, like right above 100,000. But pretty much all of them, I think they had like 30 sergeants. You know, it's a big school and a lot of trouble with a lot of freaking frat parties and a lot of assaults of the intimate nature, the real horrifying violations like that 18-year-old suffered from Dan Hargraves and Matthew Kurt. Like that's really common in Pullman. Like that's that kind of town. I've spoken with you guys about that. So anyway, the sergeant that was only making 30,000 the last year that they had recorded it, which was probably for the year 2021. I don't know if he had just been hired. I don't know if he must have been like part-time or he was only doing the job for a couple of months to have his salary be that low, like that much significantly lower. Like it was only 25% of what all the other sergeants were making, you know? And then he had Dawn Daniels, who was a sergeant who had also graduated from Wazoo. And then she wasn't the one who pulled Koberger over, was she? I don't think she was. That was no. That was somebody else, the female officer that pulled him over. Anyway, Dawn Daniels was a graduate of Wazoo. She was a sergeant. And then when the command staff was put on a paid administrative leave and under investigation for allowing Matthew Kurt to have his way with all the ladies across town on company time while getting paid in uniform, in all that. The command staff, Dawn Daniels filled in for all three of them. She played chief, assistant chief, captain, and her job of sergeant. She was doing 4 jobs for a few months without any pay increase. Like, she was just making her sergeant salary. And then when Jenkins was appointed to be the interim chief, then she got promoted to assistant chief. And then I think Jenkins resigned a few months or a year ago. And then they didn't give it to Dawn Daniels. They didn't promote her to chief because, she's a girl. They gave it to a boy. And I forget who it was. Should I Google it real quick? And then we can quit talking about that freaking case. Let me Google that real quick. The police chief of WSU. Well, and Fry might have applied for that job. So many people involved in the Idaho 4 have retired or resigned. So many. It's a red flag for sure. Police chief of well, it still says Gary Jenkins and it still says Dawn Daniels, but I thought that, okay, Gary Jenkins to retire in 2025. All right. So this is an article from October 1st of 2024. So he's announced his retirement, but when is he, like, what month is he planning to retire? And maybe Fry will apply for that job. I thought that they'd already filled it. Oh, look at this. It says Assistant Police Chief Dawn Daniels has been chosen to replace him. Well, that's good. I mean, I think she's earned that position. Okay. I was incorrect. I'm glad that I found that out right away so I don't have to go into the notes and stuff. Yes. Prior to taking over as chief, Daniels will participate in a rigorous 10-week training program at the FBI National Academy in Quantico. Is that how you say it? I always want to say Guantanamo Bay, but no, it's Quantico, Virginia. The prestigious program is geared toward equipping law enforcement professionals with the kind of skills and exposure that's needed in law enforcement leadership roles. And then they're going to be conducting a search for a new assistant chief in the months ahead. Okay, I'm really happy for her that she's getting that position. I don't know anything derogatory about her. I applaud her for being in a man's enterprise. There's not that many women in law enforcement. And I applaud her for holding down the four jobs and then being gracious when she didn't get the police chief appointment before. And I still think it's really funny that somebody came into my chat 2 years ago and said, well, we know who got that paid fellowship position over in Pullman. It was Dawn Daniels and Victoria somebody. I forget Victoria's last name. But I was like, Dawn Daniels. I know that name. No, Dawn Daniels is full-time with Wazoo. She's not going to be doing a freaking internship for grad students over there at Pullman PD. Why did you come into my chat to lie to me? And I caught them red-handed because I knew who Dawn Daniels was. It's hilarious. They thought that I wouldn't know, that I'd just be like, oh, okay. Let's see. I must say, Jazz, you have been looking very healthy and beautiful these days. Thank you, Christine. It's all the celery and carrots that I try to remind myself to eat. I'm serious. I am serious. The yoga is helping too. Yay for yoga. Yeah. I love it so much. I love it so much. It cracks me up because sometimes I'm like, I'll just take today off. And then I'm like, I don't want to take today off. In fact, when I'm doing my routine, and Kelly can probably attest to this because she used to be a yoga queen too. I don't know if she still is, but she owned a yoga studio in Philly for like 20 years. So on the days that you don't do your yoga, you miss it. Just like the days that I don't do my YouTube, I miss it. And you would think that you're like, oh, good, I need a day off. Maybe once in a while, but not really, not so much. You miss it. And then I think there's part of me that gets nervous, like, well, what if it turns into 2 days or a year? Because that's just how I am. If I don't do things every day, like eat my vegetables, it'll slip my mind. And then a couple weeks later, I'm like, damn, I haven't been eating my vegetables. What's going on? Anyway, when I'm doing my yoga, if I'm like distracted in my imagination or something, or there's noise, I feel like I'm missing out on the nuances of that stretch and the release. And I just find it wild. Like I feel robbed of just like that one moment. Like it's really important to me to stay focused and to capture every nuance of the entire sequence of um, poses and movements. And really, for anybody who hasn't checked out my yoga videos, it's pretty much the same routine for about a whole year now. And it just evolves ever so slightly day to day, or maybe week to week or month to month. And, I still take other classes, other places. And so when I'm reminded of something that I really like that I don't have in that routine, I'll try to like put it into the mix. And that might be something like recently it was just this thing of like putting your hand on the floor when you're sitting crisscross applesauce, and then you drop your ear to your shoulder. This is one of my favorites because it's so simple and we can all do it right now. And then pulling your head with your fingers lightly. And then I had added the moving the head back and forth to massage those neck muscles. But what I had added recently, it used to be that you just dropped your ear to your shoulder, but I added that reaching the arm out, extending the fingertips to the floor before dropping the head. And it just makes a really nice difference. Just like subtle things like that. Trying to think what else. There's a few other things like when you're doing the eagle arms. I love the eagle arms. This, and you can push your arms up slightly and push your head and neck down slightly, and it's just like the best release in the world across your neck and shoulder blades. And then I added the option of looking up. And then as you're looking up, raising your arms, and then they unpretzel naturally. And then you can bring your hands down to the floor before bringing them back up. But if you opt out of doing the, let's see, I think this is the opposite way. If you opt out of lifting and you just stay still, it's an incredible stretch. And then when you're done, since you're not unpretzeling in the way that happens when you push your elbows up, you can just take your arms apart like that. You can just unpretzel them quite simply. So, just little things. It's great. And even if you just try those things that I just did right now, the eagle arms and the ear to the shoulder, you'll love it. It'll make you want more. And I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm just trying to help all of us feel better, because I know I watch a lot of YouTube, obviously, because it's like my life and it's all I talk about in my lives is all the other cool stuff that I've been watching. And if I'm not doing the yoga, then that's not good for me. I have to do the yoga. Sometimes I take long walks, and I do watch my YouTube on my phone while I'm taking long walks. I'm guilty of that. But I can't watch YouTube while I'm doing yoga because I'll get distracted and then I'll miss some of those subtleties. So thanks for the compliment, Christine. That's really sweet. And I just feel good, you know. I get good sleep. I try to not be stressed out. I try to just stay chill. I try to live a balanced life. And I try to do one thing at a time because I do have a lot on my plate and I am very ambitious and I always want to get a lot done. And I try to just chill, just take a step back and just do one thing at a time. Because if I feel rushed, I'm not happy and I also make mistakes. So it's really important to me to be happy and to not make mistakes that aren't necessary. I mean, making mistakes is part of life, but you know what I mean. It's annoying when you're trying to do two things at once and then you screw something up that shouldn't have been screwed up. Anyway, I think I'll sign off. It's coming up on an hour. If there's anything you want to say, speak now or forever hold your peace. Actually, let me look at my notes real quick and see if there was anything that I'm just dying to put in this today. Probably is. Yeah, the radical left lunatics. Little T uses that phrase so often, and he's not smart enough to realize that when he overuses that or any other phrase, it loses its punch. Just another radical left lunatic. It's just like, and anybody who's not in full agreement with him, in his opinion, is just another radical left lunatic. And he's just trying to discredit people that are against him. But really, he has said, I mean, this is how insane he is. He's totally got dementia, in my opinion, or he's just stupid or something. I don't know. Both. He has said that anybody who disagrees with him should go to jail, that it should be illegal to disagree with him. It should be illegal to not like him, just like it should be illegal to not buy a Tesla. Like, dude, you're not even making sense. Not even if you were in a communist oligarchy country. That still doesn't make sense. Well, maybe then. So I did look up the sorority, back to the Idaho 4 real quick. The sorority that is for the super pretty girls, because I was curious. I had known it a couple of times, but then I forgot. It's the Alpha Phi, which is the one that Kaylee and Dylan were part of. So Kaylee backed out of it, and then Dylan invited her as her plus one for the party that weekend. I think it was Dylan's job to make sure that Kaylee was in town, just like it was Kate Cunio and Mags. I can't remember Mags's last name at the moment. You guys might, from Kylie Rodney's case. Anyway, it was their job to get Kylie to that party for Scammy. I think that Dylan was assigned to make sure that Kaylee came back to Moscow. And then Phi Beta Phi, or is it Pi Beta Phi? Pi Beta Phi? I don't know my Greek. That's the sorority that Xana and Bethany were part of. And Madison Mogan too, right? I believe so. So Alpha Phi and Pi Beta Phi. So the Alpha and the Beta, huh? Isn't that funky? Funny. And so, yeah, there was that channel that I was talking about yesterday. I put it in the, I put a link to one of the videos in the description. The channel that was purely invented to hate on the channel that you guys were talking about yesterday, the Grays of Hue or the Hue of Grays. And the channel is called YouTube Bad Actors. And I think they have like 48 videos and like 44 of them are probably about that one channel. And they're hilarious. Like The one that I put the link to is, I think, only 3 minutes long. And it's like, watch this content creator hold his viewers hostage for $11. It's just like, oh, and I'll end with the good news. I did get paid finally from YouTube for the first time in the 2.5 years that they've been saying that they will and that they won't. They put the money in my account yesterday. And yeah, then there was somebody yesterday who did a super chat, and that was so sweet. And I should give Jackie Bushable a shout out. That was really nice. So I'm not begging, I'm not holding anybody hostage, but if you're interested, I've been putting the PayPal account information in all of my descriptions. And then there's the super chat stickers should be on the screen. In the event that you feel like throwing money at me, I will gratefully accept, but I am just happy that you guys are here and that you're watching and listening. So thank you. And yeah, I think that's about it. I just wanted to tell people too that when you want to support any content creator, if you do the cash apps, that money goes directly to the content creator immediately. If you do like the membership or the super chat, I think about 30% of that goes to YouTube, and then it will take a little bit, a few weeks usually, for the money to be paid to the content creator. Just FYI. I mean, it's just really cool that people want to help, because yeah, YouTube, they don't pay as well as they used to. Too many people are making too much money and they want to keep all the money. So you can't blame them, right? More oligarchy type of stuff. Yes, how are you, Helby? I was just about to wrap up. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in and saying hi. And you are in not Australia, Scotland, right? Isn't that where the country that you reside in? I believe. Am I getting it right? I know it's like the other side of the planet. And I'll just drink my coffee and see if you want to respond to that so that anybody can try to come to your country and stalk you. No, just kidding. Yeah, Scotland. Awesome. Bonnie, Scotland. Is that a name of a town? Again, you don't need to be specific, but I haven't heard of that. So yeah, that thing with the Heathrow airport being closed down yesterday really affected a lot of people. And was that just some random fire with their electrical grid? Or was there somebody behind it? Was it a sabotage? Was it like an individual sabotage, or was it like a political sabotage? That's my question. So before I wrap up, as we approach the 60-minute mark, I do want to show you a couple of the cutest things that I have here. One, I've shown you guys this before, but it's really hard to see over here in the corner. It's the tiny little baby bunnies in the tree with the mama bunny on the outside. Is that the cutest thing in the world? I'm just so happy that it hasn't broke, because everything in my life gets broken. I think it probably did break once and I was able to glue it back together. But is that so precious? Can you see it? See the babies? It's 3. Can you see all 3 babies in there? Look at that. And we're coming up on Easter, so bunnies are really cute. My last baby, who is 13 now, she loved bunnies. That was like her first animal of choice. And so I've always loved bunnies too. And my mommy loved bunnies. So they're very, very cute. No, I'm near John O'Groats, about as far north as you can go without getting your feet wet. I've never been to Scotland, but it is so beautiful in the photographs. OMG, it's so green. Bonnie is Scottish slang for beautiful. Oh, good to know. I had no idea. Number 1 on my bucket list is to go to Scotland, Christine says. I've heard that that's a good thing to have number 1 on your bucket list, as is Barcelona, right? I haven't been to Europe. I would love to, but I don't know. I hate flying. It's a long flight. I've been to Hawaii a couple of times, and that was awful. Flying over the ocean for all of those hours just about killed me. But I felt like it was worth it. I went back, right? But when I lived in Washington State and I had family in Florida, that was the worst. Flying from Washington to Florida or Florida to Washington. It might be a little bit further than the West Coast to Hawaii. It might be. But I don't know. Flying over land is not my favorite. Flying over ocean is even worse because, I mean, if your plane goes down, you're most likely toast. Not guaranteed, but most likely. And it seems like if your plane goes down over water, the odds of surviving are slim to nil. Although if your plane goes down in the air, odds of surviving are slim to nil. I think if you're like mid-flight, but most crashes happen during takeoff or during landing. And at takeoff and landing, there are a lot of survivors, right? A lot of people that survive these flights. So what was that flight, that Malaysia flight? Was it 2014? Was it 11 years ago? The Malaysia flight that was shot down over Ukraine? And there were Americans on it. I want to say there were like 2 or 300 people on that plane. And wasn't it Russia that shot the plane down? I got to look this up. Because, I remember a couple of flights with Malaysia. Let's see. I'm going to look up 2014 commercial airplane. I hope these things don't happen more commonly. Commercial airplane shot down over Ukraine. And I honestly don't remember if it was known right away. Maybe it'll pull up in the articles here. If they knew it was shot down, if they thought the thing just exploded. So Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 was a scheduled passenger flight from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur that was shot down by Russian-backed forces with a surface-to-air missile on the 17th of July, 2014, while flying over eastern Ukraine. All 283 passengers and 15 crew members were deceased. So 11 years ago. We'll be coming up on the 11-year anniversary. So this past summer on July 17th, it was the 10-year anniversary. And interesting too, because July 13th, this past year of 2024, was the day of what I think was a fake assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. And it was only looking at that a few days ago that I realized that it was a day before the 2-year anniversary of Ivana passing away in an unattended fashion. And we all know that Ivana is the mother of Ivanka, Donnie Jr., and Eric. And she, her father was allegedly like a not KGB agent, but something similar to that, different letters. I think there's an I in there. And in my opinion, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly, for a man to be married to a woman whose father is the equivalent of a Russian spy, that would eliminate him as a possibility of running for the office of president. But what do I know, right? I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff in our world. So why was it shot down, and how many freaking kids were there? The military unit that shot down was in Ukraine. I want to know why it was shot down. I want to know how many kids there were. 3 children. Disgusting. Disgusting. Like, that's how terrorists are. They don't give a flying F. 3 days later, wait, no, that's a different flight. Um, which one was this? So January of 2020. Okay. So we're talking 5 years ago. That was one that was shot down with 176 passengers and crew, all deceased. Initially, Iranian aviation authorities said that the plane crashed due to a technical error. However, investigation by Western intelligence agencies later revealed the aircraft had been shot down by a missile launched by Iran. 3 days later, on January 11th, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said they shot down the aircraft after mistaking it for a cruise missile. Soon after, vigils held in Iran intended to pay respect to the victims turned into protest, first at the universities in Tehran and then across other Iranian cities. Protests began at the University of Technology with Iranians chanting death to the dictator and calling for Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei to leave the country. Wow. See, I'm just so afraid, you guys. I don't want to warmonger, but honestly, I'm so afraid that this is where we're heading. I hope that I'm proven dead wrong. No pun intended. You guys are welcome to visit anytime. Oh, how cute is that? Yeah, Scotland and Barcelona, OMG. I mean, there's so many beautiful places in the world, and there's so many beautiful places in our country, like Utah. Lots of national monuments there. And thank goodness all of the national parks systems, people are supposed to be getting reinstated into their jobs. We'll see. I believe the head count is now like 25,000 people that were fired by Doge, DOGE. 25,000 are supposed to be reinstated. I don't know how many there are above and beyond that. And I doubt that they're going to stop with the smash and grab type of crap. So I don't think anything will stop the big E and the little T, except, maybe like losing all their money, which I really think that their money is like monopoly money, which is one reason why they don't want to pay their taxes, because the IRS does not accept monopoly money. I'm pretty sure, last time I checked. But yeah, if they have all this inflated numbers, and then we know that little T has filed bankruptcy 6 times. We know that the big E has tanked Twitter, tanked it. I think it's worth like 25% of what it was. And then he's been tanking Tesla. It's probably worth maybe 2/3 of what it was. But that's just in like 2 months. That's just like since Inauguration Day. And yeah, keep at it. You wouldn't want to apologize for what you did. You wouldn't want to cop to what a freak you are and say, I'll do better. No, why don't you just continue with your cult-like activities and labeling everybody that is not in your cult, what was it? A radical left lunatic? Yes. I would gladly be a radical left lunatic over a cult follower. And, when people were talking about that being like a cult, I was like, I don't understand why. And so then I started looking up information about cults. I knew some about cults, but honestly, not that much. And yeah, it is a lot like a cult. It is. Germany and Canada. I've been to Canada. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Hawaii. I've been to almost probably like 40 or maybe more, of the 50 states in the continental US. I've been to Alaska 3 times, Hawaii twice, Canada just once, Mexico just once. But that's about it. I honestly, I'm not a big traveler. I like to just chill. Traveling kind of stresses me out. I always have fun when I do it, but it's so much work and preparation, like getting ready and then coming back. And I don't know. I'd rather watch true crime, especially true crime about people that go on vacation and do crazy things. I mean, that sounds bad, but a lot of people do crazy things on vacation. So, visiting places like Alaska and Hawaii as a tourist, you hear of a lot of those ridiculous stories, and it's sad. People just don't know any better. And I think a lot of times it's not just the ignorance, but it's like this invincibility that especially Americans might have, that we think that we can go anywhere and that we're going to be protected and that we can just call 911 and they can come save our hiney in a split second. And it's not so. If you leave the States, it's entirely different, entirely different. So, I'm concerned that there's not going to be the option to leave the States pretty soon. I mean, travel restrictions, I don't know. Fell asleep on plane. They woke me up thinking I was in a crisis. Knew it was my first flight, 18 hours long. Well, it might be good that they woke you up, because when you're on those long flights, if you don't get up and stretch, you can have like I don't know if it's like a clot or an aneurysm, but you can have a fatal event from not stretching and not moving. And I don't know what time span that is. It's probably no more than 6 or 8 hours. So it's really important when you're on these long flights to stand up and move around, even if you don't have to go to the restroom. Just go stand in the back or stand in the front. What do they call that when you have one of those like things? I just have to look things up, don't I? Do you guys know what it's called? Pulmonary embolism. JR Nana Boomer. Hello, my dear. How long ago was that? So yeah, I just looked up. I just saw it. So the thing that it pulled up. So yeah, I know that you're right. Thank you for the buzzword, the pulmonary embolism. So it says if somebody passes away on a flight and the crew determines there's no medical intervention possible, the body is usually left in their seat, covered with a blanket, and the flight crew continues to its destination with the crew preparing for the body's handling upon arrival. Okay, I was on a little cruise ship out to the Alcatraz Island in San Francisco one summer. It's funny because I had bought tickets to that tour during when I was a tourist in San Francisco, and then wasn't able to go on the tour, so I wasted that money. But this was a tour that I took when I was living there in graduate school, and it just so happened on the day and on the tour, because they probably have like a dozen tours a day. There's a lot of people that want to take a ferry boat out to the prison and walk around, and it is kind of cool, but it's also a prison. And the ferry's nice. You're out in the San Francisco Bay and it's really pretty. But this ferry that I was on, there was a man while on the island who had a heart attack. And it was obvious to me that he didn't survive. And the crew tried to say that he wasn't deceased. And they had him like laying on a gurney in the middle of the boat. And I had a couple of kids with me. I had a job as a nanny, for the summer. And I had at least the two boys I took care of with me. I probably had a couple of their friends too. So I was like trying to have them like not see this, because I was sure that this person was not breathing, but they didn't even have him covered up. They probably didn't have a sheet or something. They probably normally would, but maybe somebody had already used it. I don't know. Anyway, it was so gross. So the whole way back, and it probably takes close to an hour, at least it felt like an hour, from Alcatraz Island back to um, Fisherman's Wharf. And then they didn't have an ambulance come. They just had the coroner come. So they knew he was gone, but they tried to pretend like he wasn't, so that they just left him there uncovered for everybody to look at. And he didn't have a shirt on. He had this big bloated belly. I mean, you could tell from the bloating that he wasn't breathing. I'm sure they took his shirt off to try to do CPR, but they could have at least like put something on him, like a shirt. I mean, it was gross. It was really traumatic to me. I was like literally covering the kids' eyes and taking them to a different part of the boat. It's awful. But I can't imagine being on an airplane. You're so cramped in there and having somebody right next to you, because that's just creepy AF. Especially if it was your person. How heartbreaking. That's crazy. Crazy. I've never even thought about that happening on a plane, but I thought about it this last week because I heard some story like that. I flew from Seattle to Boston and then drove to Long Island and then flew to Florida. I thought I was having a heart attack. It felt like I was carrying 300 pounds on my shoulder. Wow. Seattle to Boston, direct flight? And then drove to Long Island and then flew to Florida? Whoa. Yeah. See, when I would fly from Seattle to Florida, I think it always was a layover in Atlanta, because I would try to avoid Denver, because the turbulence going in and out of Denver just makes me want to die. I'm very susceptible to motion sickness, and there's heavy turbulence over the Rockies every time, I think. I don't know. It's something I could Google. Google would be able to tell me. Helby says, yes, Jazz. I am ex-cabin crew. Flew for EasyJet for 9 years all over Europe. And if a passenger passes away on board, they're left in their seat with a jacket around them. I did have a layover in Chicago, now that you mention it. Yeah, I like Chicago. I like the O'Hare Airport. I mean, the place is huge, and it's easy to miss a flight when you have to run from one end to the other and your plane is late, and they tell you, oh no, your plane will wait for you, but they're just lying just to get you to calm down. So you better run as fast as you can. And, I don't know if you can ask somebody as you're deplaning, ask them to call the plane that you're trying to get to give you an extra minute. I don't know. I never thought of that, but I know I've missed layovers in Chicago because the flight that I was on was late and I couldn't get my hiney fast enough. And it's frustrating because they do lie, because they do want you just to calm the F down and not bother anybody. So that's cool that you were a cabin crew member, Helby. JR Nana says, there was a hurricane, so I had a lot of terminal time. So how I got an embolism from travel, I don't know. I was stretching a lot. Well, yeah, that's good to know that even when you were stretching a lot, because, when you're just so confined, it's just not healthy. It's really rough. I mean, I can't even stand like sitting in a lecture type of class for all day. That kills me. I can do a couple hours. I can even do like 4 hours. But if it's like a conference or something and it's like 8 hours of sitting, I can't take it. I mean, I'll just have to do a lot of standing up and a lot of moving around and stuff. ER said, good news, not heart attack. Bad news, it's worse. You have a pulmonary embolism. Wow, I didn't know that they're worse than heart attacks, JR Nana. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. So yeah, it's really important that we all take care of ourselves, eat our vegetables, get our exercise, drink our water, and just stress. Stress can take you out in a blink of an eye, right? Try to keep your stress level as low as possible, no matter what. So, whatever that is, if that's having a brand new blonde Cocker Spaniel puppy in your life, or, surrounding yourself with cool lights and candles and chakra towers, or friends, family, whatever it is that inspires you. It's so important to be inspired. Like, that's the message that I always want to convey, is like, do what inspires you and tell everybody that's a naysayer to step off. I think it's so important. So important. Like, follow your bliss, I had been ignoring the pain, but I asked my ex-husband to take me to ER at 4 a.m. They said if I hadn't come in, I wouldn't have woke up. Wow, that's phenomenal. I mean, good for you that you went in, and I'm going to highlight that because I think we all need to know better safe than sorry. When I had my vertigo attack almost a year ago, I really didn't want to go to the ER because I already wasn't feeling good, and I thought I could just like lay down at home and feel better. But I texted with my primary care physician, and she said, get your butt to the ER. So I'm glad that I texted her. I'm glad that I listened. And, they were able to help me out right away too, because I felt really nauseous. I kept throwing up, and I never had that medication, Zofran, that it like works within like 20 minutes. It makes you not nauseous and not throw up. It's like a wonder drug. So, also I was dehydrated, so they were able to give me an IV. And there was probably another thing that they were really able to help me with, but just the Zofran and the dehydration, those were huge. And had I not gone to the ER, I wouldn't have had those. But I think they ran some tests too that were very like fundamental and necessary and dangerous to risk not running those tests. I don't remember, honestly. It's probably the only time I've been to the ER in a long time. I mean, when I had the thing happen with my toe a year and a few months ago, I went to urgent care. I did not go to the ER. And yeah, urgent cares, you usually get uh, taken pretty quickly, but the ER, it can take a long time. And that night when I went with the vertigo, I had to like lay down in the waiting room for hours. I want to say 2 or 3 hours. And I threw up a couple of times while I was in the waiting room. And I was just like, can't that bump me up to the top of the list if I'm vomiting out here? Hoping you're doing well now, JR Nana. Yes. And also, just for anybody that's interested in that yoga routine that I was talking about, I devised that to recover from my vertigo. And yeah, it's very relaxing, de-stressing, and restorative. It's yin yoga. It's a different kind of yoga than regular yoga. Regular yoga is a little more aggressive and athletic. The yin yoga is athletic, and it is very potent, but it's very relaxing. Like, to me, it doesn't feel like I'm doing that much while I'm doing it, but I can really feel it afterwards. And you can go as far as you want with it. Like, you can do it lightweight, you can do it hardcore, you can do it medium. I tend to do it as I tend to push myself to the limit as far as I can. But with yin yoga, you're really not supposed to do that. So I do try to like take the edge off. You're supposed to like find your edge and then back off a little bit. So, all right, enough of the soapbox stuff. It's been about 10 years, so I'm much better. Yay. That's awesome. Yeah, our health is so important, our health and our happiness and our mental health. So take really good care of yourselves. Have a great weekend, and maybe I'll see you again before the weekend's over. If not, I hope to see you every day this coming week, but we'll see. It's been chaotic. It's been busy. So I just am grateful for every time that I can get with my people. My ex asked me if he had time to stop at McDonald's for coffee. LOL. He was scared. So if he could get coffee, I'd be okay. That's wild. Yeah. They have coffee machines at the freaking ER. That's crazy. Did he stop at McDonald's or did he just go straight to the hospital? I mean, you're on your way to the freaking ER. Wow. You know, it's a good thing you're not married anymore, because it sounds like he couldn't wrap his mind around putting you first, even in a crisis like that. He stopped at McDonald's in the other direction. Well, that's not so bad. That's fine. Good. All right. So love and light. Have a lovely Saturday and see you soon. Take care. Thanks for watching.